That was amazing, you know?
Last year when we did the display, we wired, like we used cut up pipe cleaners,
Yeah.
and wired every ornament on so they wouldn't blow off, because the
Yeah.
same thing happened 2 years ago. The day after they were decorated, it was a high windstorm and everything was everywhere.
Yeah. Hello, Cliff.
Hi, Cliff.
So
Hi, Scott.
Hey, Scott.
Hi.
Yeah, Scott, yeah.
It's like having Joe Thornton at our meetings, you know?
It's a clean shaven council, Lumley.
Okay, well, my clock says it's 3 o'clock, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. Does someone want to approve the agenda? Councillor Kroll, Mayor Beamish, all in favor? Perfect, thank you. So we have a nice light agenda this afternoon. We only have 2 items on our agenda. The first report is being presented by Katie Thomas, our planner, and it's on the development permit for form and character for 741 Hillcrest Road. So I'll hand that over to Katie.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So the property at 741 Hillcrest is zoned RM2, and the RM2 density allows for 45 apartments or for 22 townhouses on the lot. In order to develop this site, the property must undergo a development permit for form and character before they can get a building permit. Included in the agenda update this morning were the 3 renderings and a letter from the developer stating that they aim to attract medium income families to the development. The application has been before the PDC twice previously, looking at 2 different site design options. The PDC's preferred option, with a driveway down the center of the property, went before council on November the 17th for the consideration of a development permit, as well as a variance, which was to reduce the side setbacks by 1.5 meters. No resolution was made on either of the permits, and therefore a variation on the initial proposal has been submitted. And as you can see, that this is what we have before us. So the site plan shows the building along Hillcrest has been stepped back. As you can see, they've been paired together, and each of the pairs have been set back approximately 1.3 meters from each other. This creates almost like a duplex illusion. And they've also varied the colors. As you can see here, we've got a cedar with a light gray. We've got red with kind of a bluey undertoned hardy. And then this is gray with a beige undertone. And it's just to help create the illusion of having two units together rather than having 6 units. From this angle, you can see the stagger as well. You can see the hardy board, and you can also see that the pedestrian access is still fronting onto Hillcrest, and this conforms with the design guidelines. As you can see here, the pedestrian trail also remains in place. It's along the east property line, and that links to the right-of-way that travels through 728 Gibsons Way. So our recommendations are as follows: to authorize the development permit for the 20-unit townhouse, and then also that the recommendations be forwarded to tonight's council meeting for adoption. I believe that the developers or the architects are in the audience, so if you have any questions, I'm sure they will be able to answer them for you.
Great, thanks, Katie. Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Councillor Kroll, Mayor Beamish, all in favor? Thank you. Okay, now we'll open it up for discussion. As Katie's mentioned, this is our 3rd time seeing this proposal. I'm sure everyone, including the developer, would like to have some resolution on it. How are people feeling? Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you. Yeah, this proposal, the design, I found, yeah, it's more friendly. It gives all the illusion of separate buildings. I think the difference in the setback of 1.3 meters each one, it gives like a better feeling. It decreased the massing. I have one request that came actually from Valerie Labrec. Remember the person last time that we're representing a community? She is on the audience. I mean, if you, Chair, if you prefer to hear from you, otherwise I can make her request with regards to a fence on the east side. So would you prefer?
Well, if you already know what her request is, go. Why don't you?
Okay, yeah, she's requesting just on the west side a fence, especially because there's a walking path and the drive aisle. And right now, I believe it's just vegetation with some openings. So this is her request. I don't know how the PDC feels about it.
So a fence on which side? The west, is that what you said?
Yeah, between the walk path and the drive, right?
Oh, Katie's
That would be the east side, sorry.
Okay. Well, why don't I hear from all the members of the committee, and then maybe we'll have one more look at the renderings, and whatever thoughts folks have, we can look at it and discuss it for the last time, hopefully. Others? Thank you, Councillor DeAndrade. Mayor Beamish.
Yeah, I think this is a very good compromise, and I appreciate the developer coming up with this plan. I think it addresses certainly the issue of the setbacks on one side. I guess on the other side of the property, is there still a variance to be required on the west side, Katie?
I think so.
No, the whole project conforms with the bylaws, so it's 4.5 meters.
And I think we can certainly come up with a much better plan, much better project, and I support this. I'm not sure where I would see the need for a fence, but I do see there's landscaping there between the walking path and the driveway, so it would probably grow up to be a fence in itself, its own right at some point in time.
Okay, thank you. Do others have thoughts? Councillor Lumley?
Yeah, just confirming with the affordability of the project. I noticed on the second drawing, there's a Porsche leaving the driveway. There was a Ferrari waiting for him to leave the driveway. So I was just, maybe people save so much money on their house, they got to buy Porsches and Ferraris, which is a good thing. So yeah, I'm pumped.
There's a pickup in there somewhere too, though. And a bicycle.
Okay, so unless anyone else wants to chime in, then I'm not hearing any opposition to the recommendations being put forward. No oppositions, anyone? Okay, could we, Katie, could we look at the rendition one more time, just with regard to this fence request?
For sure. I'll just bring it up right now.
Sorry, folks, give me 1 second. Kids just got home from school. Sorry about.
I can show you the site plan. So we have the right of way down the east side here, and this is where 728 Gibsons Way is located right here, I would say. They're showing landscaping right now, and so you could suggest or recommend that they provide fencing along their east property line if that's what would be helpful.
Councillor Lumley.
I guess I'd be as curious as the mayor would be if the images are true, and the vegetation would be such that it would appear in the picture, which has some sort of maturity to it, if that's possible. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not sure what the difference a fence would make if it's actually going to be vegetation that separates these two, the driveway and the walking path. I don't know why a fence would be required. I just don't know the essence of the request for a fence. If there's gonna, and if the vegetation, if the landscape plan is like obviously congruent with the drawings, and then provide some that it does mature and grow, I think I'd rather have that than a fence, right? So, I mean, fences, I don't know. Fences are fences, so, all right.
Okay. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you. I think the drawing shows the vegetation quite a good size. I don't know how long this is going to take to grow. There's a little bit of a light spill from the cars at night, so obviously the vegetation, if it's tall enough, would give some protection. And I think it's also just the fact you might have kids in small bike, small kids and people walking distracted. So I think it's a matter of security, obviously. The drawing shows a mature fence, so perhaps we can request a mature like a green fence. Perhaps we should ask the developer if he could use mature plants, because once if they're young, it can take 3-4 years for not every plant has like a quick growth rate.
Okay, thanks, Councillor DeAndrade. Katie, if you wouldn't mind, we can lower the image now. Thank you. Okay, so are you making a motion to include a fence then, Councillor DeAndrade, down the east side of the property?
I mean, I don't mind the green option, but if he's using the green option, it has to be mature enough. So there's enough body. So we're talking about two issues, I guess. It's, I believe, it's security, for a small, or anyone walking, and the light spill at night, right? So I think it's important, right? I mean, the solutions, we have architects and engineers here, and we have planning. Either or, perhaps, but if it's green, it should be in a reasonable size and thickness and width as well, right? As it shows in the project. Okay, so
are you making a motion that either matured landscaping be used or a fence?
Yes, that address safety and address light spill.
Okay. Does somebody want to second that? All right. Scott will second that? Or are you making a question? Or do you have a question? You'll second it? Okay. I'll support it too. I think that's a fair request. All in favor? That's okay. So it passes. Okay. Great. And so we have two other recommendations. That the development permit 2020-10 for a 20-unit townhouse development at 741 Hillcrest Road be authorized, and further that these recommendations be forwarded to the December 1st, 2020 council meeting for adoption. Does somebody want to move those two recommendations? Councillor Crowell, Councillor Lumley, all in favor? Great. Yay, we got through that one. Thanks, everyone. Okay, moving on to the second report on our agenda this afternoon, another one from Katie Thomas, and this is regarding the development variance and development permit for form and character for a garden suite at 317 Headlands Road. So over to you again, Katie.
Thank you. Great. Okay, so the town has received an application for a garden suite at 317 Headlands Road, and the garden suite is proposed to be accessed from Wells Lane, which is just right here. So the suite is proposed to be constructed above an existing garage, as you can see on the right-hand side. And the proposal shown here is to be 2 stories and finished with hardy siding, cedar accents, and a pitched roof, which in staff's view complements the style of the surrounding homes. The living space will be on the 2nd floor with 2 bedrooms, and the existing 2-car garage will remain with a new entry, you can probably see it over this way, and a stairwell to access the upper floor. The upper floor, as you can see, you would come up and you'd have your kitchen, your living room, your 2 bedrooms, and a bathroom. The garden suite has been designed with families in mind, and there's a south-facing fenced yard proposed, and it will be accessed from a covered porch, which is right here. The proposal conforms with the design guidelines, using a steep roof pitch and dormers to reduce the scale and the shadow impact to the neighboring properties. This is the view that from the main home, so they've been careful to have just small windows to reduce overlook. There's no windows on the 1st story, as this is for the garage. This is the north elevation. Again, they're being very careful to reduce overlook, as this is the side that's closest to their neighbors. They've got 1 access door for the garage, which would be separate from the garden suite. And then they've got these windows here, which would be in the bedrooms. When going through the zoning review, the staff found that 2 variances are required to accommodate the proposal. The first one is to increase the maximum size of the garden suite from 90 square meters to 130 square meters. And the second is increase the building floor area of the 2nd floor to be 100% of the building floor area of the 1st floor of the garden suite, rather than 75%. While the garden suite living area on the 2nd floor is only 74 square meters, the building floor area definition includes attached garages and storage. And therefore, it's the inclusion of the garage that puts the building floor area over the zoning bylaws maximum size for a garden suite. So to conform with the bylaw, the applicant would be able to retain the garage and build a separate garden suite. But the applicant would like to retain the green space and the permeability of their lot, and therefore has requested these variances. So staff have reviewed the variances under Council Policy 3.9 and recommend moving forward with neighbour notification to gather community input for Council to consider at the December 15th Council meeting. So the recommendations are here, and essentially we just want to reach out to neighbours and see what they think before bringing it back to the next Council meeting. Now, Dave Newman is the applicant, and he's available for questions. So I'll stop this share, and you can discuss.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Can I get a motion to receive the report, please? Councillor Kroll, Councillor Lumley, all in favor? Thank you. Open for discussion. Councillor Kroll.
As Councillor Lumley had to comment on vehicles in the other one, when I saw the Volkswagen, I assumed it was Dave Newman's property. I drove by the area, and it looks like something that would fit well into the neighborhood. I'm assuming, I'm assuming because Mr. Newman's on staff that it's going to be long-term rental and not an STR. So I think it's the design fits into the character of the neighborhood, and with the rear access, and there is the plan indicates that there would be parking for the unit. So I quite like it, and I'm prepared to support it.
Okay, thank you. Other comments? Mayor Beamish?
This is taken up with Councillor Kroll's comment, and I look on page 28 of the agenda, page 4 of the report, item 5. It says that garden suites are intended to be infill development providing rental accommodation. is that intended to be long-term rental or short-term rental accommodation? What's the intent of a garden suite in terms of our policy?
Right now, that's a general statement, so they can't be sold separately from a main house, and so it's to be rental, whether that's short term or long term. That's up to the homeowner and potentially our policy, our regulations. But right now, long term would be considered better.
Would be considered better. And that's why I say when we're asking for a variance or giving a variance, is there any way that we can stipulate long-term rental?
That could be part of the variance. You could ask for potentially a covenant to say that it would stay long-term rental for a certain number of years. But it would be up to council to consider that.
Thank you.
Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. At principle, I actually like the project. So unless I hear from neighbors something, I would think about, I cannot think any, even though it doesn't conform, but I think it's really reasonable. With regard to Mayor Beamish's comment, I don't feel too comfortable. I'd rather look at the policy and make a rule that every garden suite should be a long-term rental instead of just discriminating this particularly just because it's asking for a variance. I don't think there's too much a rationale in that. So I would support, and I think this will come with the revision of the STR. Perhaps this is something that we should consider, but I wouldn't specifically do for this project.
Just before I go to you, Mayor Beamish, does anyone else have any, Councillor Lumley?
I would agree with Councillor DeAndrade. I mean, I know the intention of the updates to the like the community plan was inherently to create infill and provide rental accommodation. Obviously, the wording might not have been strict enough or specific enough in the original go around, which we have an opportunity to change. I think that would be a better solution than to start stacking covenants on properties. I mean, it could lead to, like, you know, property, like if you know, God forbid Dave ever left the town of Gibsons, if he wanted to sell his home, it might create some sort of friction with potential buyers having this covenant on his property. So yeah, I agree with her, and let's move forward on the other items and try and fix it from a policy standpoint in an individual basis. But I have no problem with the variances and the motion and the recommendation.
Back to you, Mayor Beamish. Did you have another comment?
Yeah, I'm going to go to page 5, and it talks about development permit 8, intensive residential. And the second paragraph from that talks about the intent of the development permit areas to ensure that intensive residential development fits with the character of the town and to provide for high quality, livable forms of housing and provide residents with high quality, affordable housing options. Now, as long as we're working within that and we're saying, look, the purpose of this is to provide for affordable housing options and not for short-term rental accommodations. It doesn't talk about short-term rentals here. It talks about residential, talks about residents, and talks about affordable housing options. That's just my intention. My comment here is that we need to kind of hold ourselves accountable to the policies that we put in place and say, look, this is what this was intended to do. And it does, even though it may not say, does not allow short-term rentals, the tone of the paragraph and the suggestion is we're talking about residents and affordable housing options within the community. The whole purpose in bringing these into place.
Okay, thank you. Cliff, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to just derail the conversation to a different topic, but I did have a quick question. I guess this might be more for the planner. I was just curious about the 90 square meter maximum size. And if that's being removed from the BC building code, are we changing ours to match so we don't have to do a variance every time?
Something that we're looking at. So when we brought in the garden suites, it was the 90 square meters maximum was to align with the garden suite size, and that was because that was in the building code. We just kept it, and we thought that would mean that you could either have your garden suite or a secondary suite. Going forward, it's something that we want to review. We're looking at potentially having a certain square meter area allowable for a parking space to be included within a unit. And so that would probably alleviate a variance in this situation.
Okay, thank you.
Scott.
Thank you. I mean, I support the project in general. I guess I just want to hear from Dave about what his intention is for the suite, if he was going to rent it out or what he wanted to do with it.
Sure. Dave, what are your plans besides parking your nice VW van in there?
Yeah, for starters, this was intended as a part of our retirement plan, is to provide income for us so that we can stay in Gibsons. And our intention at this point as well is to do long-term rental. And we're also crossing our fingers that that long-term renter will be our daughter.
Nice.
Who is currently in Ireland.
Awesome.
Do they pay, Dave?
So, yeah. What's that? Sorry?
So do they pay?
Oh, you better believe it.
I haven't figured that one out yet.
Yeah, but as I say, that's our intention, is to do long-term rental, and we feel like this is going to be a nice addition to the neighborhood, and the variance will allow us to maintain the green space and make less of a clutter in the backyard by having an additional building beside the existing garage. And then plus we're working in the budget to make my man cave a little bit better as well.
Nice. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Just to follow up, I mean, I see this a lot right now in my own practice, is that people are wanting garden suites for two reasons. One, for their kids or for their parents. And you're seeing a lot more multi-generational kind of developments happen here. And I think that's a perfect reason for a garden suite. So.
Great. Okay, Councillor DeAndrade.
I think just following up on Mayor Beamish's point, it's interesting because when I read, it didn't caught my attention. Now that I read again, provide residents with high quality, affordable housing options. So I think perhaps if I wouldn't mind making a motion to maybe edit this to a line that there's no doubt, it's evident, right? Whether we want to be strict for long-term or not, because right now I think it's a matter of interpretation, and I don't think policies work well when it's a matter of interpretation in this, especially because we are having a crisis. So I think it's a very valid point, but it would be easier if we have a clear guidelines or policy, and then every time we have someone that proposing a development, we don't have to go through this, because the reason that this specifically for created was to solve a problem, but perhaps we didn't anticipate what we are experiencing right now. So that's my my suggestion. Perhaps
So
that
just to clarify, if you end up, you're proposing a motion at some point to,
because we are right now dealing, actually even struggling to come up with the short-term policy, right? Short-term rental policy. And I believe this is part of the conversations, because we're going to have a policy that it's going to be a matter of interpretation, right? Because now when I read again, I almost feel like, okay, maybe all the cottages should be used for long-term rental, but we are not sure about that.
right, okay. So Director of Planning?
You Chair, the most appropriate way to move forward on regulating short-term rentals is through the short-term rental bylaw. And that bylaw, as we all know, has had 2 readings, and that did allow short-term rentals in garden suites, as was discussed. So when we bring that forward, that'll be the opportunity to amend that bylaw and change direction. But that's the way we should proceed. Right now, we don't allow short-term rentals in garden suites unless it's a room in a garden suite with the resident living in the dwelling. So as it stands now, short-term rentals are not allowed in garden suites.
Okay.
We were working on the bylaw, and until that gets adopted, they're currently not allowed. So that's where we are now.
Thank you.
Director of Planning. Councillor Kroll, and then I'm hoping we can wrap this up. Councillor Kroll.
Just very quickly, you know, I certainly like the idea of, you know, the affordable rental being enforced, and through bylaw, if you have to have a business license for your short-term rental, and you know, we're able to check through that mechanism if it's a garden suite that's actually the rental unit. I know for a fact currently there are garden suites that are being rented on a short-term rental basis in my own neighborhood. So, you know, I think once we get the bylaw in place and the bylaw enforcement with the business licenses being issued for them, we should ideally have some control.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Kroll. Okay, Dave Newman, you can have the last word, and then
Okay, just real quick, I'll be happy to share numbers with you when we're all said and done. But the affordable housing is a bit of a sticking point, because I'm not sure how affordable, you know, how much we'd be able to drop the rent to make it affordable, and what that would actually mean, because obviously it costs us money to build it, and materials are not cheap these days.
that was always my issue with the with this whole concept, this whole policy of having garden suites. That any new building is not cheap to build, and so it's much cheaper to put somebody, excuse me, in your basement and to renovate an existing building than to build a new suite. So the concept is great, but the affordable aspect of it, I agree with you, Mr. Newman. It's not cheap. So having said that, we do have a few recommendations before us. We have a recommendation that the Planning and Development Committee recommend notifying neighbors of the requested variances for the proposed garden suite at 317 Headlands Road, and further that the recommendations be sent to the next council meeting for consideration. Does somebody want to move those recommendations? Councillor Crowell, Councillor DeAndrade, all in favor? Great. So I believe that wraps things up for this afternoon. We'll just see here. Oh, on to inquiries. Do we have any inquiries?
Thank you, Chair Ludwig. At this time, I'll ask anybody in the meeting as an attendee, if you have a question of the Planning and Development Committee, if you could use the raise the hand feature found at the bottom of the screen. I'll turn on your audio and video. I'm not seeing any, Chair Ludwig.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that wraps things up. Our next meeting is scheduled for January 12th, 2020. I believe at that time, Councillor Kroll will be chairing the new Planning and Development Committee in whatever form it takes at that time. So thanks everyone for participating, and that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Mayor Beamish, Councillor Kroll, all in favor. And thank you so much, Cliff and Scott, for participating while I've been chairing this group. I hope to see you guys in whatever format the next one takes.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite welcome. See you soon.
Okay, bye guys.